QAnon. That is a term I'm sure everyone has heard of over the past year. What is it? Where did it start? I doubt very many people actually know or have that information, but one thing is for certain, in the last 6 months, that whole movement, if you want to call it that, has gone crazy. You have several different shadowy figures, people that go by aliases and made up names. You have all these different YouTube channels that keep popping up with odd names, and they play these videos. A lot of times there's no introduction to who the person speaking actually is. But one thing they do is they continue to push overall, as best I can tell, this conspiracy that Donald Trump, one, is either still the president somehow, or two, he's coming back anytime, and the date that he's supposed to be coming back and retaking the presidency, that date keeps getting pushed back. So you have all these people who've been following this conspiracy since basically the election, since the election day of 2020. And we were told on January 20th that some crazy thing was going to happen, that the reason all of the troops were in Washington, D.C. around the Capitol was that there was actually this big plan that people think they're there to protect the inauguration of Joe Biden as president. But what was actually going to happen was that all those troops were there. I forget the exact number. It was over 15,000, maybe 17,000 troops that were in Washington, D.C. and stayed there for several weeks after the inauguration. But this QAnon movement, they picked up on this and had millions of Americans believing that on January 20th, that all of these troops were going to turn, and there's going to be mass arrest of all these different key political figures and Democrats and some Republican rhinos, and that Trump was going to swing in and actually still be president, and the country was going to be saved. But what ended up happening was nothing. Then it was stated through the QAnon network, if you will, the network of different chat rooms and internet boards and YouTube channels that have names that make no sense. It was stated that come March, Trump was coming back as president. That definitely didn't happen. And then the new date became August. It was August. And you have even Mike Lindell, who seems like he could have some credit to what he's saying. At least he does show like different documents and stuff about the quote unquote stealing of the election. He was even out stating that come August, Trump would be reinstated. And the QAnon movement, they picked up on this and just ran wild. Well, August comes around and, well, Joe Biden is still president. Nothing at all has happened. You have this other figure by the name of Juan 07, and he has been just rampant, going from one show to the next. All these different right-wing / conservative, I guess you could call them conservative, all these different smaller channels on Rumble and YouTube and BitChute that's popped up over the last 6 months to a year. He's been all over these channels like crazy, and most of his conversations is nothing. It's hot air. It's literally a man that clearly is probably well read, knows a lot about history, knows a lot about politics, but he goes on these shows and he just talks and says nothing. There's never no credible evidence, no hard information. There's nothing that this man has ever said that can actually be verified. And they have the QAnon movement has followers who are, I mean, it's basically a cult. If you go through the comment threads on a lot of these videos, Anybody that calls people like 107 out and says he's full of hot air and he's just a con artist, people would jump on these people and start telling them how they're misinformed. And I don't know how you tell someone they're misinformed when they question the fact that someone isn't able to provide hard information on what they're saying. That is someone who is asking to be informed, but they want real data. So you have all their followers just going nuts on people that don't believe this conspiracy. Well, this one character, 107, he goes so far to say, we come through August, nothing happens, Trump still isn't president. And then they start throwing around the term Red October. And we hear the term, the fall determines it all. And 107 is one of the main people pushing these terms. And something big is supposed to happen in October. And there's always hints. There's never no actual statements of this will happen. This event will happen. None of that's ever said. It's always just hints of, we can't really say because we don't want to give away the master plan. It's basically nothing but just a smoke and mirrors. Well, we've heard this Red October thing for over a month, and here we are on the last day of October, and nothing has happened. Nothing has happened, folks. If you are one of the people that is following the QAnon movement, and you have completely bought in hook, line, and sinker to the QAnon conspiracy, you may want to start rethinking what you're doing, because this is my firm belief. The further this thing goes, and the more they keep dialing it up, that they keep increasing basically the amount of people that is pushing the conspiracy, there's more and more. And they're having events. They're having physical events now around the country that people are paying money to go and hear these people talk. I mean, it's basically a racket. They're making money from basically just talking about completely made up things, a completely made up conspiracy. They're talking about things that are supposed to happen that it's like they wrote a plan of fiction, and now people are paying for books. They're donating money. They're paying to go to these live events and just to be told nonsense. So if you've been following that movement, you may want to really start thinking about what you're doing. You may want to really start thinking about, hey, maybe I need to actually look at hard evidence. Maybe I need to start finding some alternative news sources. Maybe let's go to some traditional, more conservative news outlets that are established. Go to the Daily Wire. Go to The Blaze. Listen to Glenn Beck, Ben Shapiro, Tim Pool. Listen to people like this that when they deliver stuff, when they talk about different topics, you can actually go and look up the different terms and things that they are talking about, and you can actually find that information and verify it for yourself. So I'm going to do a little more in-depth looking into about the QAnon movement, but being that it's October 31st and their latest stunt of the Red October, we've gone through October now and nothing has happened. I just wanted to put this video out there to maybe kind of help spark that light bulb for some people to think, hey, maybe it's time I stop believing the QAnon conspiracy.